Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. My name is Kim Cafino, and I have worked with hundreds of teachers, coaches, and leaders in schools around the world to help them create a thriving and sustainable instructional coaching program in their school. And I'm on a mission to help you coach better. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, come learn with us in one of our courses for instructional coaches or our private mentoring packages. Join our global Coach Better community and find all of our resources for instructional coaches on our website at coachbetter.tv. If you have a question you'd like to hear us answer or a topic you'd like us to discuss, please drop us a line on our website at coachbetter.tv/ask. Join our Coach Better Facebook group or find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch all of our latest episodes here on YouTube. Today, I'm chatting with Ji Han, Associate Director of School Evaluation and Support at CIS. Ji and I are chatting about the power of coaching in schools and why we believe it's so essential to create a growth-minded culture. Ji has so much experience as an accreditor and her own experience as a school administrator that we focus on what makes coaching successful, or not, based on her many school visits. In this spotlight, we're focusing on the challenges that schools may face implementing a coaching program. In the full-length episode, we also talk about what makes coaching successful and what indicators of successful coaching programs are, as well as why defining the role and finding clarity is so essential for coaching to be successful. This episode highlights the importance of the first phase of the Thrive model, finding clarity, and how through that clarity you can build a coaching culture. If you are curious about how to develop a culture of coaching from an admin perspective, this episode is for you. Yes, we're totally in agreement. And I think your focus on coaching is just a little bit tighter on the executive coaching side of things versus listeners to this podcast will probably be familiar with my definition of instructional coaching, which is a formal or informal process that is non-evaluative and confidential, driven by teacher goals for student learning, happens as close as possible to the classroom, and usually involves a cycle of reflection and coaching conversations and feedback and data collection. So that's kind of where I'm coming from in terms of my definition. So as you said, mine is very focused on instructional coaching, but I think between the two of us, there's a lot of overlap there. And the big pieces that are the overlap are the piece that it's driven by the person who's being coached, my coaching partner's goals, and that it can take that collaborative element that we're working together, we're walking the path together, as opposed to from a deficit model of you're doing something wrong and here I'm going to show you how to do it right.
I mean, we do have overlap. You mentioned words like reflection, like being goal focused, like being able to review and look at things in a specific focus area. So there are definitely overlaps. One of the things that I think you and I strongly agree on, it is that the coachee is the one who makes the decisions of the what. The coachee is the person who makes the decisions about the how. So it's about who has, if you will, the power. And so what that is where coaching can be the most powerful, when it's self-directed. And I think that's where schools and leaders have, with good intention, made coaching a little bit too much of a panacea of a fix-it-all, where because they think, this is such a powerful strategy, we can use this to help people get better, which it can be, but it's not really that person being self-directed. It's not really that person being autonomous. It's really kind of semi. And so many people, when they have a little bit of that kind of push, they will come to the table. But my wondering is, would they have come anyways? And so I believe generally learners are very self-directed if they love and are passionate about what they're doing. I mean, almost every teacher that I've met in a school, they love what they do and they want to get better. And if we start there and ask, and just start with a question, like, what would you like to talk about? What are areas every person is going to have a list, right? And it's the question of whose list are we talking about? And we can start into, I think that's where the tension is. It's probably a question that's going to come later, is that the question of whose list and whose goals are we talking about. That's, I think, somewhere where the tension comes.
Yes, I completely agree. And I know that we have that plan later, but we can actually talk about that now. We'll come back to the other ones because it's such a natural segue from what you're talking about. To me, that is one of the things where schools struggle, where you were talking about they see coaching as a panacea and we want to do it for everything. I think what happens in that context is the word coaching gets completely, the definition of coaching is lost. It's just used for every possible thing. And now suddenly coaching is tied to appraisal. Coaching is tied to personal growth. Coaching is tied obviously to sports. Like it's got a million different connotations and then nobody really knows what anyone is talking about. So talk to us a little bit about that, a common problem or an obstacle or things that schools should avoid. And I think this is going to be one of those things. So I'm guessing that this is one of your responses there.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Oftentimes I'm baffled that we know that all learners are different. And of course, we can't do like total individual, although sometimes I've seen schools try. But when we know that learners are different, which means that they have different needs, it baffles me that we always try to do a one size fits all. And that's just usually not a good approach. Or, it's sometimes practical because we think we can't do individual approaches. But with coaching, that's the thing. It's not a one size fits all. If people are on different parts of the journey of learning. People are at different phases, if you will, of competency. That's where we're talking about in certain areas, particularly in schools. You have certain skills, certain developmental phases that we are all in as learners and as people, and so it makes sense that when you are using certain strategies to improve or make progress, you're going to have different strategies. And coaching is like that. I mean, if you do a blanket, everybody's going to have this coaching and this many hours with this process. Of course, it's not going to be effective for everybody in this. So I have seen, again, you asked the earlier question, where has coaching been so powerful? There are certain groups of people, certain people with certain mindsets. When you do give them a little bit of coaching, they go like 1,000 miles. And there's the other group of the school where people in school where they're a different part, and you give them a lot of coaching and they don't get very far because that's not the strategy they need. And so that's where it's I think problematic, is when it becomes a blanket approach.
Okay, that is such a good point, because one of the problems or one of the issues that comes up all the time, and this would be if people were like longtime listeners of the podcast, they're going to remember back in like season 1, I talked to a lot of classroom teachers, and it was just like kind of making the transition from conversations with teachers to like a broader conversation. And one of the things that came out in those conversations was a frustration around coaching is when coaches or school leaders expect coaching to be the solution to every problem. And so you can't have a reflective conversation about something you don't know anything about. Sometimes you just need to be taught a thing or shown a thing or modeled or whatever it might be. And so this idea that I do think that coaching can provide lots of different types of support. In instructional coaching, we have this frame of like whether it's consultative, whether it's collaborative, whether it's like more coaching driven, and all the coaching models have those same 3 stances, but with different labels. And so there are times within instructional coaching that you might be doing more modeling, more mentoring, more consulting type work. But this idea that coaching is going to solve all the problems all the time, and it can be the thing that we use to appraise teachers, to me, I'm really struggling with this, like, just like you say, one size fits all.
Well, and you just hit on another issue, challenge, problem. Let's even go there. This idea that coaching is tied to appraisal, or that's just we know that that's not a good combination. But it's because we're trying to kill 2 birds. I think that's a wrong analogy. Sorry. It's just because we're trying to do multiple things with one. We're trying to be efficient. And efficiency helps save time, but it doesn't bring good results. It doesn't bring effective results. And so, I don't even know when that started happening. We had this appraisal I mean, appraisal in the sense of we need to assure quality, right? We need to make sure that everybody, you know, does does what we expect them to do. It's about expectations. But then coaching came in. Somebody said this is a great thing, and then they decided, why don't we mix that with appraisal? And again, into your earlier question, where I've seen coaching go well is when coaching is not directly tied to or must be a part of appraisal. They can be side by side, they can enhance each other, but they're not part of appraisal. And that's where it's gone wrong, is when coaching has been used as the remediation tool for a deficit in appraisal process. The classic, a teacher's on an improvement plan or probation or whatever you want to call it. And then they say, oh, we're being supportive. We need to do everything we can to support that teacher. Give that person a coach. And yes, of course, that can be emotionally and psychologically helpful if you do it more of as a, you know, I'm here to listen, but that doesn't fix the problem. That doesn't, you know, even with if it's instructional coaching, that person's not coming to the table willingly. They're being told you need to get better, and this coach is going to help you get better. And that then we're not talking about coaching, right? That's a whole nother model.
Yes, I am on a high horse about this topic right now. I'm going to try not to talk for too long, but yes, 100%. Coaching only works when it's not directly tied to appraisal. Coaching and appraisal can be side by side and enhance each other. Love that, those two sentences together, because I think when you were saying, I don't know when this came from, I've been thinking about it lately because the conversation has been coming up a lot. I remember from the time of recording this podcast, maybe between 10 and 15 years ago, there was a transition away from calling it like appraisal and supervision to calling professional growth something along the lines of like a professional growth plan or professional learning plan. We don't do appraisal and supervision anymore. We do a professional growth plan. And within that like development of that, moving along those lines, somehow coaching started becoming tied in there. And I think personally, not only is it being efficient, but I think it's also tied to the very specific challenge we have in education, which is that nobody ever likes to tell people when they need to improve. And school leaders, that's a part of their job that's not their favorite, right? So like if we can wrap this up in coaching and miraculously they'll understand that they need to improve, then maybe I don't have to tell them anymore. And I think somehow the model of a professional growth plan, which I think is great, which is starting with teachers' goals, which is still supervision and appraisal in the sense that you still have to meet the quality standards of the institution that you work for, but you are choosing the area that you're going to professionally grow in for this year. Like that's fine, but that is not part of coaching. The person who's appraising you can have coaching style conversations with you, but that's not coaching. That's still ensuring that we're meeting the expectations of the school. And so I think somewhere in there, those lines got blurry. And not every school is doing it this way, of course, but many schools, I'm hearing more and more conversations about schools don't ever want to say the word appraisal anymore. They don't want to say the word supervision anymore. They don't want to say these specific words, and they're just calling all of it coaching. And to me, that's scary because that's not coaching. And now you're giving coaching this name that is so directly tied to appraisal. Who's going to want to be coached in this setting if you need to be vulnerable to be coached? And it's whether or not you keep your job, no one's going to want to do that.
Yes, in those schools where they have tied coaching and appraisal together, just simply by the fact that you have a coach is kind of a signal like, maybe there's something not right there, which is kind of like you said, the sideways way of showing there's something not right there. I believe you're right, absolutely right. There was that movement of going away. It's that PC-ness, right? It's not politically correct to use the word supervision and appraisal. Well, it's about quality, right? It's about us improving quality of learning altogether of students and learners. And it's also about, like you said, having those difficult conversations. And you're right. It is so much easier to say, I want to support you. And here's a coach, rather than saying, there are certain areas that you're not meeting expectations. We want to find support for you. And therefore, you're going to be working with a specific person who is going to help you get better in this particular, if you will. It's mostly skill, competency. I'm really okay with people having a lot of leeway and support when they are needing to improve a certain type of teaching skill, because we all are learning new teaching skills come out all the time. Where I'm a little bit less patient and have a shorter time is when it's more of a way of being a behavior, when there's an issue where an adult is not kind, or when an adult doesn't behave in a respectful way to another. Those are not necessarily coaching moments. Those are like difficult conversation moments. And again, like you said, we mix coaching as it's like the salt and pepper. We think if we put salt and pepper on everything, it's going to make it better. And it's like, it only works for some things. And so we really need to be clear, what is the purpose? What is our ultimate goal of it? And if the answer is, to be helping the person have an exciting, self-directed, self-reflective journey of growth, where we are not going to be like pointing and, no, you have to go down this path and you have to do these things, then coaching is amazing. But when we have a specific goal with certain expectations, especially if those expectations are not being met, then coaching is not going to be the first answer.
Yes. And I think schools are busy places. School leaders are busy. It just seems to be like, oh, this is nice. We can wrap this up. We can salt and pepper. We can season this situation with a little salt and pepper. But that definition piece, that understanding the purpose of what is coaching supposed to be doing in this context, that's the only way we can really make coaching be what it is, which is that self-directed journey of professional learning. And I think that you hit the nail on the head with the salt and pepper kind of analogy, because it's like, we do a little of this and we do a little of this and it's all gonna taste better. But in reality, maybe your thing is over salted and it just needs pepper right now, or whatever the case may be. Hi, coaches. Thanks for watching this clip with G. If you are working towards defining the role of the coach in your school setting, come join us for one of our courses for coaches. We have programs to support you in every stage of your journey, from new coaches moving from the classroom to a coaching role, to current coaches ready to be more intentional and strategic in their practice, to experienced coaches ready to lead. Find them all at coachbetter.tv/learn. If you are new to coaching and looking for clarity in your role, our next global cohort of Getting Started as an Instructional Coach opens for registration tomorrow. Registration is open until the 12th of November and opens only once a year. Get all the details at edurolearning.com/getting started. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, we can support you. If you're curious right now and you have questions, please reach out. You can leave a comment below, you can join our Coach Better Facebook group, or you can find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. I'd love to support you in your coaching journey. See you next time.